guys, so this is part cuatro to our four-part series having to do with events leading to the Civil War. And if you've watched the last three videos, you know that America has been trying so hard to relieve that sectional tension between the North and the South. There's been this rubber band slowly stretching and stretching, and America's trying their best to relieve that tension. One, with the Missouri Compromise that kept the balance in power in Congress between free and slave states. Two, with the Compromise of 1850 that allowed California to be a free state, but in order to, there wasn't another state to add to keep that balance, we gave the South the Fugitive Slave Act. That had some unintended effects, right? Now, freedmen and slaves were being captured in the North and brought back down into slavery. This did motivate people to join the abolitionist movement. The other thing dealing with and concerning with slavery is territories. Are we going to allow those territories in the West to have slavery? We allowed them to vote through popular sovereignty in the Kansas-Nebraska Act, and unfortunately that led to Bleeding Kansas. So now we're at Dred-Scott versus Sandford, and this is the very final thing right before we actually go into Civil War. So take a look at some of these guiding questions. 1, are slaves citizens or property? 2, can the government take your property away without due process? These are our guiding questions for this Supreme Court case. The first thing is, what's a little background knowledge? Dred-Scott was a slave who was taken by his slave holder, John Sandford, to live for a time in northern territories in which slavery was prohibited. Later, he was returned back to Missouri, a slave state, and was put back into slavery. He decided to sue his owner, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. He sued for his freedom, saying he was once a freed man, therefore he should be free and not be a slave. So what was the decision made under Dred-Scott versus Sandford? It said that African Americans are property and not citizens, and that the Declaration of Independence does not apply to them. Therefore, a slave cannot, because a slave is property, they cannot sue someone or take them to court. So take a look at these, like number 1. Scott didn't have the right to sue because he was only a piece of property, not a citizen. Here's the next part, which is actually one of the biggest impacts that it had, was not the fact that slaves are just property, was that what does that mean now? It means that the government can't take away your property, Dred-Scott, from a citizen without actual due process. So the United States cannot make a law that makes slavery illegal in a territory, because if it does, that means whoever owns slaves is going to lose their slaves, hence their property. And we didn't give them due process. Therefore, that would be considered unconstitutional. So that was the biggest idea, the fact that slaves are property, and because they're property, the United States can't make laws that take away your property without due process. So if we look at this territory in red, all of that territory is now open for slavery. All the other compromises, all the other things that we've been trying to do, like the Missouri Compromise, that's unconstitutional. We cannot say that from this line north of that, there's no more slavery. Because if you are a slave holder, you're going to lose your property. And by law, we cannot take away your property without due process. So basically, everything is open to slavery now. And to answer the questions, are slaves citizens? No, they're property. Can a government take away your property without due process? No, we can't. What does that mean? All of this territory is open to slavery, and all those other compromises, like the Missouri Compromise, is considered unconstitutional. So slaves are property, not citizens. Government cannot take property away without due process. All previous compromises are unconstitutional, and slavery is now allowed in all the Western territories. So here's a question for you. Two newspapers. The first one reads, Missouri Compromise is declared unconstitutional. And the next one, The Triumph of Slavery. These headlines refer to the decision in which Supreme Court case? A. McCulloch versus Maryland. B. Gibbons versus Ogden. C. Dred-Scott versus Sandford. Or D. Worcester versus Georgia. So hopefully you answered Dred-Scott versus Sandford, because that is the answer to this question, guys. If we see it, the two effects were, one, all the other compromises are declared unconstitutional, and two, slavery is allowed in the West because of this court case. Alrighty, guys, this concludes our four-part series on the causes or the events leading to the Civil War. Just keep in mind that the main three reasons are slavery, sectionalism, and states' rights. And you just saw four very important compromises that really were trying to relieve sectional tension. But at the end, there was only so much that America could do. So I hope you guys liked them. Please watch all four parts. They're very, very informative. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell so that you can get notified anytime I upload new content. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.